The recently released DLC God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is not only a compelling roguelike that really lets you master the fighting mechanics of the series, but it's also a complete epilogue about bros talking about their feelings and fighting monsters from the past. Really, it's a lot of what it is. This epilogue tells you what's happening in the world and maybe even where the franchise is going. Today I want to talk about the incredibly and compelling story of this game, the powerful ending for Kratos, and a secret ending you can only get if you beat the game about 20 different times that I think is deeply important for what this next experience is going to be. So, the DLC starts with Kratos being invited to test himself in this strange crucible by a mysterious entity, but when he gets to the place known as Valhalla, the gates are closed, so Kratos does what Kratos does.
To be one's own master.
Master thyself.
A more poetic way of putting it, but yes.
Inside, he's injured, he's lost all of the talents and items that he's earned in the base game, can't use any of his stuff, and dies pretty quickly against the enemies. Immediately, we're returned alive again with Freya, Sigrun, and some Valkyries present. They're pretty upset, but understand that Kratos is going to figure out who sent this invitation and what's going on. So they set up Valhalla properly for him, allowing him to upgrade and make choices, and Freya mentions that Kratos still hasn't answered her question, leaving an ominous pause that I'm sure this DLC would explain. This is how the roguelike is set up. You make different choices, you get as far as you can with increasing difficulty, and you keep playing it to unlock more. Inside Valhalla is that real crucible of combat. Each of the enemies and locations, though, are not real. They're memories of Kratos' past, including his time in Greece, which is when we're introduced to an old enemy, Helios, the head of a god he ripped off long ago, along with a combat zone that looks like Greece and has enemies and battles from his past. Kratos attempts to sacrifice Helios, but then realizes that the head he was putting into this flaming cage isn't his rival, but his best friend in the whole world, Mimir. He's not taking any chances, even though every time they die, they're reborn again. He breaks Mimir out, but then also breaks Valhalla. Sigrun not gonna let her love Mimir die. She goes into Valhalla to save them both, where she's brutally damaged, but she still is able to save the pair. Kratos after this continues fighting in the Crucible until he makes it to the final level and discovers Tyr, the Norse god of war who was freed at the end of Ragnarok. He wants Kratos to become the new god of war for this pantheon. He thinks he's right for the job, but Kratos, who has done this before, does not believe he would be a good fit. They fight, he listens to Tyr, but he's not ready to accept this truth, so the Crucible starts all over again. And for run after run, Kratos goes through his memories in Greece, he remembers how he became the god of war, he recalls brutally murdering Helios, and what he did to Pandora, along with some very upsetting memories about his daughter and wife. All of these actions are refuted by Tyr and Mimir, who let him see the good in Kratos' actions even as this was happening, how he made sacrifices at the time and since then to right the wrongs he committed. Eventually, this gets through to Kratos, who sees his former chair that he sat on as the god of war and sees a younger version of himself, a representation of what he used to be, and then says this.
A god of war. God of pain, of suffering, of destruction. And the one said I chase redemption that I know I can never deserve. What does that make me? God of fools. A god of... hope. When all else is lost. You lost everything. And everyone. You became... There is no forgiving you. You chose! I chose. But now, should I, this same man, should I sit, take, proclaim, lead, place myself in service? In service? Should I lose everything and everyone? There's to be enough left inside so that I do not become you. I do not know. But I have hope. You are cruel and arrogant and selfish. But you are more than that. You have always been more than what others saw. You are more than that.
He understands that the mistakes he made are mistakes, and he's willing to do better, to recognize that because he doesn't want this job, he's the perfect person for it. He knows the evils that can come through violence and how warriors who are committed to violence can be turned into monsters. He also knows how monsters can be turned back into people, how they can be something even greater than the sum of their parts, something more. So as he sits on that throne with Mimir at his side, he's no longer just the god of war, but also the god of hope. And I think this moment means a lot for the video game industry as well. It's representative of a character that was pretty one-dimensional, pretty crass, that really was just about toxic violence in many ways, adapting and changing into something that has dimension, that has consideration, and that's just simply something more. It still has violence, it still understands and speaks to the fact that there are violence in video games and in the God of War series. It will never be pacifist, but that's okay. You can still make this violence mean something, and I think it's deeply emotional. I think it's more than just what Kratos was doing, but what we all kind of grow up, because I think a lot of us who are playing this played the original God of War games when we were much younger, and now, hopefully as adults, we can see that, yeah, those games are fun, but now they can be something more. The story of Kratos there ends with him telling Freya that he will join her council and serve the realms. But there is another story, a secret story. Throughout this journey, Mimir has been talking about his relationship with Sigrun. He loves her, they have this deep history, but that he's worried that as a head, he's not enough for her, which Kratos finds amusing.
Now, back to Sigrun and your low opinion of yourself.
Look, brother, I don't apologize for wanting her to have someone who can be everything to her. She deserves the best.
Then why should she not deserve the smartest man alive?
Sometimes I think you've come too far, brother.
Meanwhile, Sigrun was so damaged from saving both Mimir and Kratos in Valhalla that she's concerned she won't be allowed in. This shakes her faith and causes her to reconsider her life, something that she spent lifetimes preparing for. In the same vein, Mimir wants her to be fulfilled and not to burden her on her journey to figure out who she really is. It's decided that Sigrun will leave the Valkyries and Mimir and explore, maybe even go on an adventure like Kratos and Mimir have. This revelation guts Mimir, but it also gives him a hope for a deeper connection. He knows that they'll still be together, but in a better way, a better place when they're both able to grow as human beings, realizing this new reality where Mimir will not have a body, where he will be this character, and Sigrun perhaps will be a fallen Valkyrie. It leads to this very emotional final moment.
So this is it then?
For now. For however long.
Good. I mean, I'll miss you more than I can say, but whatever we ever were, or weren't, or might have been if the timing weren't just so... I need you to know that it mattered. All of it. Knowing you helped make me a person I can stand to be. And all I want for you in exchange is... everything.
I can't imagine a world in which I don't end up very close with you, my love. But let me come back to you whole. Let me come back not needing anyone to tell me what I need to be happy.
I can't begrudge you getting to know yourself. After all, it's been one of the great pleasures of my life.
Farewell, Sigrun, and good luck.
Thank you, Kratos. Farewell, my friends.
Fair winds, my love.
My question to you, is it possible that in a side adventure, I'm not going to say a full game, but in something that has the title God of War in it, we will be playing as Sigrun? She's already established at being this combatant that is able to fight on the same level as Kratos and Atreus that we've seen before. She's modeled in the game, and they've really set up her story in the epilogue, kind of a secret, in the last thing that we've seen so far for God of War Ragnarok. Would you play a game where you are an adventuring fallen Valkyrie waiting to get home to the love of her life, a head that tells a lot of jokes? So I want to hear what you think, if that is something you would accept. I don't think it would be, she would be the star protagonist in God of War 6 or anything like that. But I do see a real DLC adventure with her as something really, really fun and easy-ish for Santa Monica to do. Overall, what did you think of this DLC? Like I said at the top, it is mostly a couple of bros talking about their feelings and beating up old enemies. And I really think it's a far cry from what this series used to be.